folks, welcome. Good morning to you. Happy Sunday. What your story is here, and with me, such a good friend, TroyPacelli. How are you doing, my brother?
Salute. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Oh, it's such a blessing. It's so great. We are pre-recording this, so bear with me if things seems a little outdated based on some sort of weird reference, but it's a great way to get to chill with you guys, talk about the YouTube journey, look for words of advice and wisdom and experiences. And I got to be honest, in some ways, I like the idea of just putting a pin in things and saying, this was, August of 23. Forward the clock. It's like, what was things like? Where were we at? It's kind of an interesting element in that kind of thing. So,
good point.
Yeah. So with that said, it's not always a smooth road. It is. You were definitely, I would say, primarily a live streamer. So with that comes a much slower growth process, but a more faithful fan base, for lack of a better term.
I like to think so.
And I think that it also takes a while for people to know, like, when you're scheduled. Your Friday nights at this time. It may take months and months for people to kind of get that into their routine. You may have people who kind of come and go depending on their own schedule, that kind of thing. What has that been like, though, for you emotionally, with that almost like a stark reality of, this is what I can do. I enjoy doing this. Okay. Here's the consequences of that.
Well, okay. So I think you already touched on the first consequence, and that's, if I wanted to be, monetized, if I wanted to be a big channel with a lot of followers or whatever, this is probably not the way to be going about it, But that's not my first priority. My first priority, let's take it back a little bit to why I even started doing it in the first place. Back at the beginning of the virus of unknown origin and all of that, Netter and I were working together at a company, literally in the same department. And it was a little high stress. And every Friday, we would leave the office and go to just the other side of the expressway and meet up with some of our coworkers, even, some people from other departments, to have drinks, maybe have dinner, and just decompress, talk about, our week, vent about clients, bosses, even bosses that are sitting there right there with us, and it was a great social opportunity. I think every middle class person knows that kind of a concept. Then the lockdown started. We lost our jobs, both of us at the same time. And on the one hand, it was kind of like, boy, I don't mind being locked in with my wife for an extended period of time. I signed on to, be with her as much as I could, so this is a blessing for me. But at the same time, there was that missing of the friends, the camaraderie, the drinks, all that kind of stuff. So we started looking at, this phenomenon of YouTube, and we were like, well, we can kind of do that virtually. Everyone's doing everything virtually. We were having conventions virtually. We were having meetings. We could do this pub concept. So I started this idea of Last Call, where I intended it to be a late night stream, not thinking through the fact that my audience might potentially be the whole world with all the time zones involved. So my last call for some people is 10 in the morning. As a matter of fact, my guest bartender tomorrow night is in Perth, Australia. So I will be having drinks at 9 at night, and I don't know if he'll be drinking alcohol at 10 a.m. where he's at on Saturday, but that's the reality. But it has become that. It has become this opportunity for me to get together with Nanette, who's actually there in the room with me, but Aged Boomer, who's lives in Florida, and whatever other YouTube guests that could be anywhere in the world, or just the chat, who, like you said, is the regulars. Think of it like Cheers, right? You got Norm coming in, and you got, Frasier and whatnot. You stop and you say hi to them when you see them come into the chat. Honestly, that's exactly the feel I was going for, and that's what it became naturally. So, there you go.
what is it like? Because obviously, yes, that is the goal. That's the motivation. That's what gets you doing it week after week. But at some point, you start to go, well, it is growing. The numbers are there. It would be nice to be monetized so the StreamYard thing pays for itself, or maybe I
Yeah.
want to buy a new microphone or whatever. What is it like to face that sort of reality check of? And I know you went through. I mean, we'll get to that. We can go through a subscriber story that most people probably won't even know. And I saw it in real time. It was
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Talking
yeah.
about calling out the algorithm in real time.
Right.
But what is that? What was that like emotionally to like sort of engage the process?
So I started to look at it and kind of realized that there was two ways that I could go about it. There was the, you know what, I could just go all in on this and focus on my content and, you know, try to play the numbers and the algorithms and try to decode the rules that the platform doesn't tell you overtly. Let me tell you something. You could read those terms of service. You could turn them over to a lawyer, and you still won't know what you can and can't do on the platform. That's just the reality of it. And I could get all, you know, into that. I could play the game of putting out content that's gonna hit the algorithm, that's gonna make me go viral. You know, who is the celebrity of the week that's saying something stupid that I can, you know, trash, that'll get a lot of people either, you know, thumbs upping me or thumbs downing me and starting arguments. I just, that wasn't what I wanted to do. That would be just emotionally draining to me. So I preferred to go the, I don't know if you'd call it the road less traveled or the road more traveled. Either way, the more comfortable, slower, longer path where I could stop and smell the flowers, you know, see the things I want to see and not all the things that everyone else wants me to see. You know, I could do a review of a movie that maybe no one else has seen and I could suggest it to you. And it's not going to go viral because, you know, not a lot of people are interested in it. Every now and again, though, I accidentally hit something, like I just, because I'm a goof and I like to do goofy things, I did a little mock commercial as though it was the 70s, and I did a commercial of it was a parody pastiche of the Kenner Star Wars action figures. It was a direct parallel of the commercial where they talked about the introduction of the character Boba Fett, and they had a mail away. Well, I did as if Akmina, the bartender from the holiday special, had a mail away action figure. And so I mocked up that commercial. That one's gotten a lot of views. It's the kind of thing that I put a lot of effort into because it was a labor of love. I can't do that all the time and hope to grow my channel on that. But it was fun. I did it. You know, that's the game you play. And I'm kind of interested to see, oh, I did this thing that was fun for me and a bunch of people liked it. Isn't that great? You know?
Gotcha. All right, so we are writing down 1124. Turn your volume or your gain down just a little bit.
The volume on my mic?
I think so. Let's try that.
I think it would be best if I do that through StreamYard.
Yeah, try something to see. It just seems
Give
like
me a
it's
second.
getting a little... I think that's what I'm hearing every now and again.
I'm going to switch to... how about automatically adjust mic volume and see how that goes?
Okay.
Has that changed anything?
Well, so far so good, but once I get you riled up, we'll see what happens.
That's the key. When I get riled up, I don't think it matters how low I put my mic.
You get a little too red, next thing I know. But hey, listen, this is all part of the experience, my friend. All part of the.
I'm a passionate man. That's the thing about
You are a passionate man, indeed, and that will probably be where we will take it to. Maybe at this point you were still feeling like, why can't I get over the hump with subscribers? I'm +3, -2. YouTube, you're killing me. I'm so frustrated. And I don't know if you were on with Ryan or someone else, but you were on live and we were watching the numbers bounce. We were doing like a full court press on Twitter
It
and
was
everything else.
it was your channel. It was a stream. No,
Was it? No, I think I was in the chat and I saw it live because I was in. I think no. I know I witnessed you surge past like a double digits, like a past 300.
Yeah.
Then it was this. Then it was this. Then it was. We were watching it in real time, ping around, and within 24 hours,
here's what it
kept
was.
Doing that, it was so strange.
I don't remember the exact stream, but it was your channel, and it was a big panel. And the reason I remember this is because one of the people on it was Noob Reviews.
Okay.
And she subscribed to me, and she told me right on stream, I'm subscribing to you. I subscribe. Yeah. Well, I think I'd already subscribed her. Everyone in the panel subscribed to me. A bunch of the people in the chat subscribed to me. And yeah, I got a whole bunch of new followers, and it was great. It was wonderful. Next day, I'd lost all of them. And I tweeted out, I guess now it would be X'd out. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm not even acknowledging the X.
Whatever it is.
We tweet.
Whatever it is. I social media'd out how frustrated I was by that. I said, all of these people that subscribed to me, they were unsubscribed. And I can't believe I said anything. I hadn't done any streams since then. It's not like I said anything to upset anybody. And Noob Reviews responded to me. She said, I just went and checked, and I know that I subscribed to you yesterday, and I was not subscribed today. And so it was like right there. I saw it right there.
Kick in the gut?
A little bit. And I have seen this over and over and over again. When I get an influx of subscribers, if I don't lose all of them, I lose about half of them. And oftentimes I get many of them back, but not all of them. And it's very, very frustrating. So when a YouTuber says to you, check and make sure you're still subscribed, hit the notification bell, it really matters. It really does. And like you just said, I see it in real time. You subscribed to me today and you are not subscribed tomorrow. The first time I had Michael French from Retro Blasting on my channel as a guest, which I thought was a big get. To me, I'm a big fan of his.
Yeah, it's been on my show yet. I'm thrilled. I got to figure out how to get hooked up in the loop to get him on.
He's just real. He's willing, but he's stretched thin. And he was on my channel, and because he's such a big channel, on his Patreon and on his update on his own channel and so forth, and he sent out on Twitter, I'm going to be on Troy's, here's the link, come join us. I had a whole bunch of people watching that night because of Michael, and a lot of them subscribed. Again, big influx. But here was the interesting thing. I'm a Patreon member for Retro Blasting. Follow his channel regularly. Follow him on Twitter. I went to, I don't remember what I was doing in YouTube to check on his channel, and the button wasn't hit for subscribe. And I'm like, there's no way. I know I was subscribed to him.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about. You got to check.
So, and I think this is part of this process. And again, I really don't check even numbers regularly, so it's even worse for someone like me because I'll just go in like, oh, look at that. But I do think that it's part of what you kind of have to intellectually accept once you decide you want to be a creator, because you at least want to keep and engage the people that you are engaging with. Like you said, you got to know Megan, you wanted to subscribe and connect with one another, be on your show, that kind of thing. If the system is constantly disconnecting that, it's so frustrating. I've heard people try to explain this away of, well, the algorithm will do this and this is what will happen or whatever. Listen, I'm not sure anybody knows. But what I know is
I think they're all guessing.
That does happen. Yes, that's all we know. So
I will say the other thing too is, and I say this with a good deal of confidence, and this is true on all the social media platforms, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Twitter, whatever it is, there's a great deal of automation involved. There isn't a human being engaged. and they tweak something and things go higgledy-piggledy, people complain and they don't have the level of staff to go and look at every individual person. But these companies, whether they realize it or not, they are hurt by this as much as we are, because they are, in theory, they gain revenue the more viewership there is, the more distribution there is, so on and so forth. The more my content gets out, the more money they can make off of it. Heck, I'm not even monetized, and they are making money off of my content.
Yeah,
they should want to get more people watching it, more engagement, so on and so forth. So, but they don't see me as big. They don't see the value, because it's a chicken and egg thing. I'm not a big channel, so they don't see me as valuable. They're focused on the big channels. For all they know, I could, and I don't believe this is true, but I could have better content than many of the big channels. They don't know.
Yeah, I think that the mechanisms in place are usually large, sweeping moves.
Yep.
People just get caught up in the wake of many of those. It's very small, usually bigger channels, but also more importantly, like channels that are putting themselves into those lanes of risk.
Yeah.
With the topics that they choose, the words that they use, the profanity that's taking place, those kinds of things. They put you in this avenue of higher risk.
Yeah.
And then there is a sense of common sense, and I think you should speak to this, even though you're not monetized. The YouTubers that are frustrated by this, but it would make sense to you and me. We're older guys. We've lived through this FCC thing.
Yep.
You aren't supposed to be cursing and dropping F-bombs and whatever and an advertiser to be, well, let me sign right up for that. I mean, that's just not the norm. That is not the marketing, advertising world, and you're fooling yourself into thinking that it is. And don't blame YouTube universally. That's a universal thing. Like Coca-Cola is not interested in putting their ad on something that's pull all this profanity and talking about Disney children concept. I mean, they're just not.
True.
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think a lot of YouTubers have, if they didn't already know it, they're catching on to it. And they're starting to go, well, this is content that I could do on YouTube, but maybe this is content I should do on another platform, and so there might be, follow me on this, follow me on this, follow me on this. And yes, you can see all of my YouTube content out on Rumble, but there's also going to be some stuff on Rumble you won't find on YouTube, because it's probably not a good idea for me to carry it. And I'm talking like maybe 2 videos. I'm not talking like a bunch of content. So don't everyone necessarily think you're going to go to Rumble and find a whole bunch more Troy. Check out my stuff here first, then we'll talk. But anyway, but you're absolutely right about that. But at the same time, there is a model for this kind of thing. Look at cable, right? Cable has had that kind of a tier where you had your channels were geared towards, whether it was children, families, older people, adults, whatever. And over time, they started to introduce more and more adverts, and they would market their adverts to their audience. So just because you were on a channel that dropped some language now and again, you still got advertisements, but it wasn't going to be, toys and cartoon adverts. It was going to be, I don't know, whatever. I would love to be able to cuss it up, left and right, and then have a sponsorship from, I don't know, some alcohol company, Jim Beam or something, like, I don't know, just throwing something off the top of my head. But that would make sense. But I don't think streaming is even there yet. I don't think there are enough advertisers using the streaming services to be able to specify, I don't care if they swear a little bit, because I'm selling this, I think I want as general an audience as possible, and so it's one size fits all when it comes to this. Now,
Let me pitch my perfect fit, and you tell me where I'm off base.
Okay.
My perfect fit is what I get to see is stuff that I'm subscribed to. And more importantly, what I see first is something I've paid membership into.
Yeah.
Without any filters, because I have chosen to see that. Okay. So
Doesn't
if I
that
go
make
to my
sense?
YouTube
Yeah.
page, those are the member stuff would be there first, and the stuff that I have chosen to hit the subscribe button on.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as far as advertising and monetization and some of those things, I'm going to defer over to Amazon. And over on Amazon, they have a selling program. You can be a fulfillment by X, Y, or Z. There's all sorts of different things you do.
Sure.
But you do have an application process to sell certain brands. So, for instance, you can't just go and buy up $2,000 of Legos and then go open an Amazon account and just start selling Legos. You got to go through a process.
Sure.
Right? I don't know why there's not an advertising bucket. Now, I'm not saying that it's the end all be all, but it would be a clear the lane, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, you use Jim Beam as an example. I'll use something a little more PG-13 for me. Let's say Dr. Pepper, because God knows I am throwing down Dr. Pepper by the case. And I could apply to just have that greenlit. Now, it doesn't even mean it doesn't even mean that they want to do it. It just means I'm allowed. I've been vetted for this to be checked out. There would be no more filters. It seems like if the mechanics, because this is all electronic stuff, this isn't as though you need a lot of humans involved. This is just a bunch of, submit this form and it goes through. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, you scan documents for your mortgage and stuff that are so easily transmitted. It's silly to think this requires so much automation. But it seems like if we just greased 2 or 3 of these wheels, a lot of their headaches just go away. I'm not even meaning like take an extreme person like a Steven Crowder that obviously was divisive to these people. It's like if he had already paved the way for 2 or 3 advertisers, and those are the only ones he got. No one else.
Right.
Every application he would submit got denied. That was kind of his reality. It didn't mean he had to get banned. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Does the platform want to partner with you? Do you want some of my advertising dollar? Because what is ending up happening with, and I'm seeing it more and more with a lot of YouTubers, they're circumventing YouTube. They're getting sponsorships directly. Yep. So you'll see this video is sponsored by so-and-so, more on that later. Within their own video, that
Daily
is
the best example, right? Daily Wire will say, all right, Troy, when we come back, let me talk to you about Dr. Pepper.
Right,
iPops
exactly.
drinks a lot of Dr. Pepper. You know what I mean? It's like, I couldn't agree more. I would do it tomorrow. I mean, I know that might make some of my people.
And YouTube doesn't.
It would be easier.
And YouTube makes no money off of that because it's directly between me and that company. Now, I have to disclose that. They may not give me any advertising dollars from YouTube, any other commercials that show up randomly. But I've got a real problem with that too. If again, it's the same thing that you see happening in Hollywood right now. They're saying, if you make money off of my likeness, my work, my effort, you should be paying me. Well, it's eventually it's going to be the same thing when it comes to these platforms. Right now, they can say, well, you agreed to the terms of service and you said you're basically our slave and we can do whatever we want, Okay, fine. Yeah, eventually that is going to be changing though. And I know that and it may not even be while I'm still doing this. It may be after I'm long gone. But the market changes. You and I have lived long enough to see these currents and eddies, and things go in cycles, and there's going to be a class action lawsuit. And eventually these platforms are going to have to, if you made money off of my video, you have to pay me. And there must be that transparency so we know.
And just to prove your point or elaborate on your point, then you can answer to this, is there's already, and again, you can look this up, guys. I think the latest update on this lawsuit was actually in June. But Reface, which is one of the apps that, and you've seen me make videos and little clips and snippets with Reface.
Is that the what you did with me where I'm like what Captain Picard dancing
Picard.
on the... Yeah.
Right. All right. Now, so it's deep fake AI software. It was free. They got sued. So they're in a federal lawsuit with, I think it was a reality star. And it's in California. It's in like U.S. District Court and things like that. So Reface just kind of like pulled all that back. So if you go there, there's just nothing motion picture. It's all very generic stuff.
Was that court mandated, or just they felt like it was a good idea because they were in the process?
I didn't pull the original documents to
Gotcha.
go and see what was and wasn't, but I can think it's the first layer of them sorting out, like, if you're putting, because I can understand copyrighted material, because obviously you had to take music out of it and things like that. We joked about your clip because it was more like fun for us, because
Right.
we know we can only play like maybe 7 seconds or something
Sure.
like that to even have a chance of getting it through.
Right.
But let's just presume Patrick Stewart and Paramount are like, no thanks, we don't want you doing that. Okay,
Right.
fine. Okay, that's fine. It gets removed, it gets flagged, it gets removed. But let's say you have a TikTok user or a YouTuber like me or you.
Right.
We put our stuff out there. You're putting something into the public thing. So this what is allowed and not allowed hasn't been well defined, because technology is going faster than the law does. So I think it's an extension of the conversation we're having about the financial advertising and monetization process. They've also got the new phase of AI and copyright and likenesses and all this kind of stuff happening.
Well, and I agree with you 100%, but I get a little triggered when we talk about the law catching up with the technology, because I feel like no, we already have the principles of law in place. The technology hasn't changed. For example, Second Amendment applies to muskets, to cannons, to ARs, to whatever else, to Bowie knives, everything, okay? And every time some lawmaker wants to say, no, it doesn't, well, we just have to go back to court and prove that it does, over and over and over again. I said the same thing about the entertainment industry, right? They already fought the battles about syndication, about home media, about cable, and now they're doing it all over again for streaming services. It's not that it's not because the technology has changed. It's that the companies that are trying to screw over somebody are trying to claim that it's different, and everybody, including eventually the courts, are saying, no, this is no different. It applies here too. But we got to fight these battles over and over and over again because, you know, and I feel like it's the same thing when it comes to these kinds of copyright issues, right? We talk about things like fair use, about parody, and so forth. And it requires you to stop and say, why does copyright exist in the first place? The reason is because, and you were talking about music. If you write a song, okay, you deserve the compensation for that. And if I go out and record that song and I make money off it, again, we're going to keep coming back to the same principle. If you make money off of what I had done, you owe me something, right? And if we choose to be in a partnership, we share, right? This is what happens when a songwriter writes a song and an artist records it. There is a partnership there.
Yep.
You get paid as the songwriter. You know, I get paid as the person who sang it. But and if there's money being made by people buying the song, but parody is something different. Parody is Weird Al Yankovic taking the song you made, completely changing the words, completely changing the video to be something that's clearly humorous and makes it something completely different. It's transformative, right? And funny. And you could say, well, you know, that's copyright. No. Nobody is buying that thinking they're getting your song. Nobody is buying Eat
Jackson,
It.
right? So Eat It. Yeah, Michael, yeah, exactly. So they didn't
Thinking they're getting Beat It.
No one was buying Eat It thinking that they were getting the Michael Jackson version.
In fact,
and he got permission because of the music elements, right? The actual music.
Actually, it turns out no.
He didn't even need it.
I dug into it. He never needed the rights. Because it was parody, he could have done any song he wanted to.
Right.
But he's an above board guy. He holds himself to a higher standard than the law does. So, for example, he never did a Prince song, even though he absolutely could have, because he talked to Prince and Prince is like, I'd rather you not. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. He doesn't. Occasionally he has done. He had great ideas that he didn't get permission to do, so he would do it like once or twice in a live performance, but he'd never record it. See, And I think that's awesome. But it's can you sue for this? No, you can't. It's parody. And I think something like what you're talking about, nobody is seeing that video you did of me, my face superimposed on Captain Picard dancing on the bridge of the Enterprise, thinking they're watching an episode of Star Trek and then not buying that episode. Nobody's doing that.
Right.
That's clearly humor. That's clearly parody. It's a meme. And we got to get through... we've got to weed through some big problems with intellectual property law. Did you know, for example, there's a song by Men at Work, Land Down Under. You know this song?
I think it's just called Down Under, but I'm
Down,
with you.
Yeah, whatever. They were sued by the company. Yeah, I never know. I say more so that people know what song.
If I made a Klingon reference, you would make sure you buttoned it up. So I'm just trying to make sure I have my Men at Work hat on. That's all.
That's true. That's fair. That's fair. But since there aren't a lot of Klingons out there that might be listening, and there might not be old people that know who Men at Work are, making sure they can look it up, right? There's a rift in the song that plays over and over again. That's a flute solo that is similar to, it is evocative of an old child song in Australia called the Kookaburra Song. Now, if you listen to the two, they're not identical, but it's clearly evocative, okay? They went to court, I'm presuming in Australia, and lost. And Men at Work had to pay tons and tons of money in residuals and royalties to whatever company it was that owned the rights to the Kookaburra Song because of that. And it's ridiculous because it's like, does anyone go to hear Men at Work and think, oh, this is the Kookaburra Song? And then not...
Oh, he muted himself. Muted yourself. Pulled his microphone out. This is the best blooper ever since a Ryan Roger Athe. This is the best because he was like hand waving around and out goes the mic.
Am I back?
You're back, but you're low. Go ahead. Talk again.
Okay. Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
You're a little low. You're a little low. So check your settings.
Let me
that was
check
great.
my
Got him all
settings.
worked up over the Kookaburra song, and he pulled his mic right out, folks. Live, right here. You're catching it.
It was bound to happen, right? Give me a second to fix my mic settings.
Oh, it's funny. Yes, Kookaburra song, Men at Work, Down Under, lawsuit. Yes, absolutely ridiculous story. Yeah.
Any better?
Yeah, a little bit better.
Okay, good. I can go higher if you need me to.
I think you should go a little bit higher. Yes, please.
Okay, I was gonna say because I'll probably anyway.
Oh, mutes. He's playing with it on us there.
I know. There we go. That should be good.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there's only so many notes. It's like the Amadeus reference. What notes should I cut? To make it acceptable to you. Too many notes. Which notes should I cut? Yes, it obviously makes you think of that song, but clearly I am not lifting anything from your recording of it. It's not an exact whatever. But even when you go to court, you take your chances, and sometimes people that don't understand music, it sounds similar to me. I'm gonna, whatever. It's a problem.
All right. Well, I asked the next question. I'll ask you to turn your volume up just a little bit more even because I think it's because you were definitely much higher before. Just keep it a little more even. Okay. So let's go. Let's try to put our arms around all of this. I think that one of the major principles, and I hate having the law involved as well. I hate the fact that we try to pretend. I am totally on board with you. I think you know that. Is it because there's a lack of transparency? Because I think that a large part of what the problem is and why some of this stuff gets muddled up is because everything YouTube is doing, all the algorithm just get blamed. So whatever cloak and dagger stuff happened, because we've had certain things that have gotten unearthed that were tied to politics. We also have the lack of transparency with, like you were talking about, streaming. So we don't know what streaming numbers are. Nielsen has come up kind of like an afterthought. Yeah. So because there's no transparency, you end up in this gray area. So it's not as though an actor could go, wait a minute, my show I did was #1 on Netflix. How many people watched it? Right. They don't tell you. Oh, wait a minute. On YouTube, I'm getting a million views, but I got paid X amount That doesn't seem right. How come last time I got paid this much? So it's like there's no transparency, and that elevates, I want to say, hysterics. The response is more exaggerated because people don't have all the facts.
You don't feel that you're doing business in good faith, is what it is. It does make you feel like it's even worse than an employer-employee relationship, because at least in an employer-employee relationship, we're covered by certain labor laws. You got to give me a break. You got to pay me at least minimum wage, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. There's nothing like that. This is more like independent contractor. It's not even independent contractor. It's more like day laborer, being paid under the table, and indentured servant almost. Well, you want your channel to stay monetized. You got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to put out this many shorts, but you're not going to make any money off of those at all. But we'll make money off of that. It's that kind of a thing. But the other element of it is, and this is another thing that is going to have to be worked out legally speaking, and this is a much bigger thing for social media all around, is the difference between a publisher and a platform. Mm-hmm. So the social media gets to, well, we are a private company. It's our platform, so we don't have to be fair about who we give a voice to. We could discriminate against one political party, one topic, one whatever, and we don't even have to tell you that we're doing it. And so far the government's like, well, yeah, you're right. Private company, blah, 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 blah. And but at the same time, you also can't hold us liable for copyright stuff. That's not our problem. But we will have this algorithm working that is very slanted inside of the IP, on the side of the IP holders. All it takes is an accusation. There's no discovery. It's just an accusation, and we'll demonetize you, and we'll hit your video, and we'll hit your channel, right, whatever, just because this channel and you, as the nobody who isn't even monetized, would have to take them to court to make this happen. They want it both ways, and yet the platform's still making money on us. So they're literally having their cake and eating it too. That is a huge problem. Huge problem.
Yeah. I'm still shocked at the amount of ads that run on non-monetized content. Like, I'm still just blown away the amount of content that is not monetized that they make ad money on, and no one's like complaining about it. And again, Ryan is again, he's so wise beyond his years. One of the things he talks about is that all of this has this one factor. If they can get you to quit and leave your content on there, it just can still have ads on it. It's like all of this free content that just sits there.
True.
I'm guilty. My old channel still technically exists. It's no longer monetized, but technically it still does get, I don't want to say views or hours or what. I don't know. I don't check it anymore. And I'm like, wow, but statistically, that's a lot of views. That's a lot of, it's like one of those things. Well, what's the Office Space thing where they're stealing a penny off every transaction and it turned into millions within a couple of days? It's like, it really is sort of like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's incredibly, incredibly unfair. It's theft. It really is theft. And it's going to take one big lawsuit or one class action lawsuit that has enough visibility to get enough of us involved in it. Look, I don't have the money. I'm not monetized. I have no money, to try and take on, the platform or whomever it is. I guess it'd be Google that you'd end up having to take on.
Yeah, it's definitely a part of the Google thing.
But
I'm interested. We'll have to, Better Call Saul kind of thing, right? We need to have a Saul. Yeah.
Or it's going to take one of the, bigger YouTube channels, like, I don't know, like, Viva Fry, Robert Barnes, kind of a thing that it's like, yeah, that'd be a good idea. Maybe, get in touch with my law firm and we'll talk about it. It's going to take something.
The lawyers must not think there's a good get there, because Daily Wire didn't do it with the way they treated Matt Walsh and some of the other stuff, and that seemed like an obvious lawsuit waiting to happen with the way it kind of played
They would
out.
be
But
they would be the wrong. The Daily Wire is very institutional. They're not going to take on another institution for because they do their business the same way, and that's why Crowder had the problem that he did with them. But like I said, my favorite law tubers are David Freiheit and Robert Barnes, and they're more involved in Rumble. They're only here because this is where they started, but they'll do a stream and then they'll go, okay, it's been a half hour. We're all going over to Rumble now. We're cutting it off here. If you want to follow us, you got to come over to Rumble, And then after they've been on Rumble for a while, it's like, now we're going to end here. If you want to see the rest of the show, you got to come over to Locals, And they're trying to migrate people off of YouTube to the other platforms. So they're probably not going to spend their time fighting the fight, because I think they think YouTube's pretty much a lost cause. And that may be the other way to fight it. As people start moving to Rumble, Rumble starts getting bigger, starts getting the functionality that people are looking for, that the YouTube has that they don't have. As that starts to happen, there's going to be a lot of. You already see big YouTubers leaving YouTube to go over to Rumble. So I mean, exclusive contracts.
Sure.
So money talks louder than the law sometimes.
Right. So despite all of this,
Mm-hmm.
what makes you happy and brings you joy from doing this?
Every single stream that I do, reading the chat, getting the comments on my videos the next day, the engagement that I get on my MeWe group or on Twitter, about my videos, saying, hey, I loved what you did. Hey, maybe you should do a video about this. I'd love to hear more about that. Or, just in the chat, somebody telling me what they're sipping on a Friday night. Honestly, that's really why I do it. And, every now and again to get a big YouTuber that I admire on my channel, just so I can hang out with them, like Michael French or Tony Roberts or, you.
You have about 3 or 4, maybe a little bit more than that, pretty big rewatch videos from like a couple years ago. Does that surprise you? And is there a slow burn to that, or do they like take flight and then they've kind of even back out?
I have to admit that you probably know more about that than I do. I have not gone back and looked at a lot of my old videos. I've only gone back and looked at that one parody toy commercial that I did, because every now and again I'll want to share that with somebody because I know they'll get a kick out of it. And then I'll look and I'll go, wow, that seems like a lot of views,
Yeah, I was pretty blown away by this. So this is your videos. These are your live streams.
Sure.
By Popular. So you have to turn on Popular. So this is the Time Traveler. This is from 3 years ago. So Time Traveler's Wife. They Call Me Trinity.
Yep.
Holiday Inn.
Oh yeah.
Those are all, well, this one's at 9,800, but this was at 21,000, 27,000.
Yeah.
Then Dune's at 32. That's from 2 years ago. And here's Rudolph.
Yeah.
So
it's important to point out that these were rewatches. So, and this was before I was hosting off platform the video for people to watch along with us. You kind of had to have the movie yourself to watch with us. So those videos are literally just our commentary. So if you were to dig into those videos a little bit, you would see a lot of negatives, thumbs down. I haven't turned off the thumbs down on any of my videos. I want people to see.
I don't want to turn that off. I want to leave it. I've gotten close to 50% a couple times. Some people hate on me, so I like it. It's fine.
And I get a lot of negatives on this and a lot of nasty comments going, I came here because I wanted to watch the movie. And Mike, I try to be diplomatic, but what I'm basically saying, if you read between the lines, is, well, then you're pretty stupid because you honestly believe that I'm going to stream the movie here and get you don't understand how YouTube and copyright works,
Okay.
But so I think that's what drives a lot of the views on these videos. It's almost clickbaity. I didn't intend it to be clickbaity, but it kind of is.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, it is. Sometimes I see that and I'm like, that many, even if it's angry people clicking on it for a second because they thought it might be the full video. I'm like, that many people came and did that? Really? For Trinity is still my name, or they call me Trinity or what? Really? Okay. You know?
What's one of the biggest things that you have learned or experienced from this that if I had asked Troy a year ago or longer, you'd been like, I sure didn't expect to blah, blah, blah.
Okay. So this is something I didn't think I'd ever really want to talk about, but so I half joked, not really joked, about how having people like Michael French and Tony Roberts tomorrow and whatnot, I get a little fanboyish, and it's like, you know, I'll tell them back in the green room, I'll say, you know, my hope is to just not come off like Chris Farley in that Saturday Night Live sketch. Hey, you know that video you did where you said that thing? It was really funny. Yeah, that was great. You know, I'm hoping that, and you know, Mike will be like, no, man, it's just like sitting down with you at a pub. I'm like, well, good. That's exactly what I'm hoping. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm talking to Michael French, you know. But and I've joked like that with him on the stream with people on it. I got a comment, a private message on I don't remember if it was Twitter or something, but one of my regular viewers who, I guess you got to have a channel in order to be able to comment on videos and chat in the chat, but you don't necessarily have to have content. So this person has a channel on YouTube but doesn't have any content. Sent me a comment and said, you know, he's like, I get what you're saying about, you know, these bigger YouTubers. He says that's kind of how a lot of us feel about you. And I was shocked. And I'm like, dude, I'm not even monetized. I haven't even hit 700. I haven't even gotten out of the 4 digits yet, or into the 4 digits yet. I'm still in 3 digits. And really, that means nothing. I really only have like 12 people that watch me every Friday. You know, that's not a big audience. And he goes, but you're doing it. And potentially thousands of people could watch you, even if it's in a rewatch. And you get in front of the camera and you talk like it's just some people sitting at the table together. And I started thinking about it. That comes from my performance background. I've been on stage. I've given, you know, lectures to, you know, auditoriums of people. I don't even think anything of it at this point. So when he said that, I was like, wow. Wow. You know, I mean, you know, and it's very sobering and very humbling, you know. And I think that there's I've had this conversation with other YouTubers, the big channels too, because they're all very much of the same mindset. Oh, I'm nobody, you know, it doesn't mean anything, whatever. And you know, to be willing to come on my little channel, you know, that's got to be a certain amount of humility and not taking themselves too seriously. They say you either stay grounded or you become an a-hole, you know? And that's that celebrity mentality. And there's a lot of YouTubers that are out there that are like that. Most of Hollywood out there is like that. So when you meet a celebrity, you get an impression of that right away. Whether they're one of those people that's full of who they are, or like I've had many celebrity encounters that, you know, I just realized as big as I thought they were, they were just ready to sit down and have lunch with me at a picnic table outdoors just because I had an open seat. You know, it's like, wow, you know? You don't judge a book by its cover, you know? Don't make any assumptions.
All right. What is, we'll wrap with this part for the What's Your Story part, though. What's like next for you? Like, do you kind of like plot and plan? First off, I'll give you some credit because you do actually plan premieres and streams out very far in advance, and they're there for you to find, folks. I would tell you that you need to sort them better so that the ones that are coming up next are at the top of the list, but that's okay. You'll sort that out later. That's it's okay.
my
For
lack
those
of
people at
knowledge.
home, that's a manual process. So that's
Yeah.
not like a fun thing to have to do.
Yeah.
Is to constantly juggle that stupid playlist and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
you
yeah.
can do it. But what's like next for you, and how do you sort of like plot and plan out in that sort of arena for you?
There's a couple of things that I've thought about that are like contingencies. You know, like I've already talked to Netter. I shouldn't assume everybody who's watching this knows. Netter's my wife. She's got a channel too, Netter's Network, and she is my enabler. She is definitely my biggest cheerleader. Couldn't do anything without her, and very supportive. And so everything I'm thinking about doing, I run by her, and it's like it's hard doing the YouTube thing when it's like a part-time job. I work a full 40-hour week, and then I do YouTube on top of it. So that's why I get so little, upload content out there. And I at least have my Friday night live stream keyed in. That's always there, but it requires a great deal of prep, and that's all hobby time, basically, if you want to call it that. But in my full-time job, I'm an independent contractor. There's no guarantees on the longevity of that. And I've kind of said to Netter, it's like, I think that if anything happens and, I lose this posting, maybe I try to go full-time on YouTube and start, an 8-hour day of recording and editing and scripting and all that. Maybe. That's one possibility, right? The other is I'm looking into, and you've been on some streams with me over on PJ's channel, wanting to get into marketing a little bit. So starting to look into that. We'll see how that goes. But honestly, there's a part of me that just wants to say, I'm just going to see where it goes. I just want to enjoy it. So many YouTubers that I admire have said, if you're not doing it first because you enjoy it, and then the money and the monetization, whatnot, that's, if it happens, great, then you're kind of doing it wrong. And I tend to agree. There's no point in me putting in this kind of effort if it's not a passion that I really love and want to do. So
I agree. Listen, Troy, my brother, my friend, I'm so blessed to be able to call you my friend. And at some point we're going to break bread together. It's going to be amazing. But folks, listen, everything is in the description, including the link to Netter's channel. Make sure you're connected. And just, you know what? If you just want a nice chill stream, get to meet a lot of other cool people. Which, to be honest, if you miss it live, it's no big deal. You can just go catch it after the fact, which is what I do. And it's weird hearing Troy talk like this because I listen to him at 1.5 to 2 speed. So you can imagine how he sounds.
So you talk like this.
He's not that bad. Every now and again, there are some people that are like, oh, too fast. Loki, I tease Loki all the time because it's like I hear his normal voice because I'm used to listening at 1.5 to 2 speed. And I'm like, oh, that just kind of throws you for a loop sometimes. But it is a great show. I'm blessed to call you my friend. I'm so grateful to be able to spend time. We could talk about all sorts of crazy stuff together. We could talk for 4 hours for sure. But folks, definitely connect. Thank you for that, my brother.
Thank you for having me. I super appreciate. I've told you before, if you ever want me on, I'm never going to say no, unless an emergency comes up. I will always be there for you.
Well, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you so much. And folks, listen, enjoy the rest of your weekend, your week ahead. Thank you for watching and hanging out with us. Be blessed. I am Pops. Till next time, talk hard. Take care, everybody.
Salud.